William was content with his retirement. It was dull, but peaceful. Every evening at 6:00 p.m., he would pull out his small set of binoculars and survey the apartment building across the street. His gaze always settled on the 13th floor, apartment 1304. This was the residence of a young woman named Sarah. Sarah performed a strange ritual precisely at 1100 p.m. every night. At 110:30 p.m., she would turn off her lights and open her window. In the darkness, she would tap the wall 3 times short, rhythmic knocks. After a brief pause, she would hold out a small flashlight and flash it 3 times short, long. The entire sequence ended within 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The next night, and the night after, the routine was identical. William initially worried about invading her privacy, but soon found the ritual to be the only real suspense in his life. Was it delusion? Or a cryptic form of communication? One afternoon, William pulled out a dusty filing cabinet containing his old reporting materials. The file labeled Lillian Payne murder case, a cold case he had abandoned 25 years ago due to external pressure. In the file was an incomplete note left by the victim, Lillian, just before her death. 3 on the wall, 3 with the light. William's heart froze. The pattern Lillian left matched the chilling routine Sarah performed nightly at the 13th floor window. Lillian Payne had been murdered in her apartment 25 years earlier. William had pursued the story fiercely, but was ultimately forced to drop the investigation. Now, the 13th floor window was trying to break 25 years of silence. William meticulously documented Sarah's routine, trying to match it to a known cipher. 3 wall taps. Tap tap tap, similar to the Morse code for short. 3 flashlight flashes, short, long, similar to the Morse code for W. Short, long. William was convinced the disjointed signals were meant to form a specific word or coordinate. He realized the key lay in Lillian's personal history. She had been an avid student of ancient script decoding. Her 3 taps, 3 flashes wasn't standard Morse. It was a personalized cipher rule based on an ancient glyph structure. If Sarah was reenacting Lillian's message, it meant one of 2 terrifying things. Sarah knew the killer, or Sarah was being controlled by the killer. William had to know the full message, and the chilling reason why it was being rebroadcasted decades later. William knew he couldn't hide behind the binoculars anymore. He had to reach Sarah. He wrote a small, discreet note with a partially decoded sequence, and the name Lillian Payne, slipping it into the mailbox for apt 1304. That night at 1100 p.m., William watched. Sarah appeared, but something was terribly wrong. She didn't open the window. Instead, she flashed the flashlight rapidly and erratically, a clear sign of panic or distress. Minutes later, William's phone rang. Number withheld. Hello? William asked. A low, menacing voice replied, "Your 13th floor hobby is over, William. Do not approach that woman again. Just live out your delusional days quietly." The line went dead. William's hands trembled. This wasn't just a threat. It was proof that someone was watching Sarah, and watching him. They knew his name and knew exactly what he was focused on. William recognized Sarah's erratic flashes as a desperate, modified Morse code for danger, run, or help. The killer from 25 years ago was still active, powerful, and now threatening Sarah. William realized he was no longer a mere observer. He was a combatant in a dangerous, delayed game. William decided he couldn't trust the police, who had buried the truth once before. He had to rescue Sarah and secure the evidence himself. Using his understanding of the building's layout from his years of observation, William pinpointed Sarah's regular trip to the doctor every Thursday afternoon. The next Thursday, William, using a small, specialized tool, carefully bypassed the lock on apt 1304 and slipped inside. The apartment was tidy, but a sense of dread hung in the air. On a small desk sat an old family photograph featuring the face of Lillian Payne. The writing on the back of the photo stunned William. "To my dearest aunt, Lillian." Sarah was Lillian Payne's niece. She had deliberately moved to this apartment to investigate her aunt's murder, using the cryptic 3 taps, 3 flashes code to send out a coded plea for help. In a desk drawer, William found Sarah's hidden journal. It contained the fully decoded final message. Sarah's journal final coded message: "The truth is in the local philanthropist's library. He demanded I repay a debt on the day of the murder. He is the murderer." The killer was a highly respected local figure. William was elated by the breakthrough, and horrified by the magnitude of the light. Just then, a key rattled in the front door lock. Sarah was home, and trailing behind her was a man's menacing silhouette. William scrambled under the desk, holding his breath. Sarah entered, her eyes red and fearful. The man following her was none other than the former chief of the local police, now a benevolent, highly respected leader of the community's largest charity foundation, the same man identified as the killer in Sarah's note. The former chief smiled chillingly, pushing Sarah against the wall. "Sarah, I know how much you loved Lillian, but uncovering your aunt's truth benefits no one, especially now." With that old man interfering, he glanced toward the window. 3 taps, 3 flashes. Quite romantic, but it's an old, dusty code. Just like Lillian, you need to accept your fate. William clutched Sarah's notebook and the small piece of mail he had touched, which carried the killer's fingerprints. The former chief took a call. "Yes, the old man? We've started rumors of his delusion. By tomorrow, the town will ignore him. Don't worry, there is no evidence. It's perfectly buried." William was consumed by hatred and terror. This man had used his power 25 years ago to cover up a murder, and was now threatening the life of the victim's niece. William knew he had to get out and expose the horrifying truth before he, too, was buried by the killer's influence. William barely escaped 1304 and raced to the police station with Sarah's notebook and the evidence. He presented the cold case file, the coded message, and the evidence of the former chief's recent threats. But the police were still loyal to their former chief. They calmly interviewed William, recording his statement as severe paranoia. "Mr. William, it seems you've become lonely in retirement. Creating a narrative from what you observe outside your window is a common symptom, especially a window on the 13th floor, a number often associated with myths." Days later, the local newspaper ran an anonymous story. "Quiet town haunted by delusional senior citizen, obsessed with 25-year-old murder ghost." William was socially ostracized. Neighbors avoided him, and his wife worried about his obsession. William refused to be defeated. He decided to do what he couldn't do 25 years ago: anonymously expose the truth. He meticulously transcribed Sarah's notes, detailing Lillian's ancient cipher, and the process of decoding. He transformed the full, final coded message into an encrypted digital document. William reached out to a trusted, ambitious young reporter at his former newspaper. He offered the full decoded message and the entire backstory on the condition of anonymity. "This is not fiction," Williams stated. "This is a woman's cry for help that waited 25 years, delivered from the 13th floor window. It's a real dying message." The reporter, initially skeptical, was quickly overwhelmed by the consistency of the cipher and the undeniable links to the cold case file. Days later, the story exploded onto the national news. The window code mystery: 25-year-old cold case solved by a final cry for help from the 13th floor. The public outcry was massive. People across the country began mimicking the 3 taps, 3 flashes as a symbol of demanding justice. Under immense pressure, the police were forced to reopen the case. The former chief was arrested for obstruction of justice and murder. That night, William returned to his binoculars. The 1304 window was dark, quiet, and peaceful. But then, the window briefly opened, and Sarah's face appeared. She looked down toward the first floor, and flashed her small flashlight 3 times. Long. William smiled. In Morse code, that sequence was the letter V, victory. William finally laid down his binoculars. He was no longer a lonely retiree. He was the man who had brought justice to a cold case. He met Sarah soon after she showed him Lillian's last wish: "If I die, send a final message through the window. Someone in the darkness will surely see the truth." William's obsession was over, and the truth, hidden for a quarter of a century, was finally out in the light.